Welcome back to the FTN College Basketball Betting Show. We're here on Wednesday, the last day of November, to take you through all the action as we do 3 days a week. We killed it during Feast Week. We're rolling right now. Great day last night. Our FTN College Basketball team cannot be doing it better than they possibly are. Please make sure to hit like and subscribe here. We are growing on YouTube, blasting over 7,000 followers. We're going to continue that going here. We give you content. We give you content in the morning with Frank Brank, Mike Kutry, the prop master. The college basketball prop master is killing it as well. Walt Waddell gives you the daily fantasy. So many great things here at FTN. Please follow us as we continue to move forward. NFL season, NBA season, hockey season continue. We have you covered, especially for college basketball. I have a ton of games that I want to get to today, so I can't wait to get started. But we have a few things that we noticed from last night, so we're going to go through them quickly, and then I will get into the games, folks. So here we go. Let's get ready. First up, couple things last night. Should have put this one out there. We had a perfect 4-0 night last night, but I should have mentioned this. Houston coming back after losing or beating, but not covering Kent State at home, took Norfolk State to the woodshed and destroyed them 152. The line was like 26, could have covered 40 in this game. Houston, one of the most bankable, reliable teams that you're going to bet against the spread, especially at home in the Fertitas Center. That's right. Houston comes back with a big win. They're the number one team in the country, 7-0, 5-0 at home. Absolutely fantastic. Only game they haven't covered is Kent State. Virginia, Michigan, little upset here. Virginia did not cover to give you 5-0 on the night, but they did get the win, 70-68. Down screen, back screen. Tony Bennett, he's got a team that is veterans. He's returned everybody from last year. Michigan scalding hot from three. Hunter Dickinson did a lot of great things inside, 23.7 rebounds, 5 blocks, tied a career high, but they just wore them down. And Virginia would have absolutely covered this game if Reese Beekman did not leave midway through the second half with an ankle injury. He ended up coming back and he had no explosion, but they get the win. They were down 11 at the half, got the second half live line. Fantastic. Virginia is a team I think is going to win the ACC. The idea that their odds right now to win the ACC are behind Duke and North Carolina is an absolute joke. Virginia, Tony Bennett gets it done on the road in a game that Michigan was scalding hot, but could not get it done at the end of the game. Probably the biggest surprise that we saw last night, Marquette at home destroys Baylor 96-70. A Marquette team that really wasn't great on offense just came out and pounded them. They were up 51-25 on Baylor at the half and just coasted. Shaka Smart has a team in Marquette that he had similar to VCU that plays his style, that plays the havoc. He's home. He's comfortable. He was never comfortable in Texas, but he certainly is great at Marquette. 6-2 overall, 5-0 at home, blows out Baylor. Baylor 5-2 on the year. Next game, Kentucky versus Bellarmine. Kentucky has issues, folks. You've watched those games. You've seen players wave off Calipari making his call, but Cal usually gets it figured out. Bellarmine, a tough team that's played well against some elite competition here, came in. They were close for a while. Kentucky pulled away at the end. Reeves had 18 points for Kentucky. I think they'll figure it out. They're in a tough conference in the SEC. You have teams like Tennessee that are going to play well. Auburn's got a ton of talent. Even Ole Miss with Kermit Davis, that 1-3-1, doing a great job there. So I don't know how Kentucky's going to do to start the SEC, but certainly when he gets to tournament time, they're going to be ready to go. They'll figure it out here with Oscar Tshiebwe. Inside, Kentucky gets the win, 60-41. Why do we not continue to fade Maryland, to fade Louisville? Maryland covers comfortably 12.5 points on the road at Louisville. Louisville now 0-7, 0-4 at home. They have yet to cover a game this year. They are the worst, in my mind, Power 6 team that is out there. They're not even coming close. Maryland doing a fantastic job here. Solid inside, outside defense, hits three-pointers. Kevin Willard has a defense going. 7-0 Maryland, now ranked in the top 25. Sort of an underrated team here to start the year. But Louisville, we will continue to fade Louisville until they burn us. 0-7 overall, 0-7 against the spread. Louisville losing again. What else is new? At home to Maryland. Final game I'll talk about here. Number 24 ranked San Diego State at home. UC Irvine, who is a dangerous team here, folks, gave them all they could handle. San Diego State needed a 3 at the buzzer to win this game and get the outright win, 72-69. San Diego State defense is not where it needs to be right now, and their offense is sporadic. So it's a team that is very dangerous come tournament time, but it's a team that you have to look at here. They are not great against the spread, but they could be getting it together as they get towards the end of the year. Interesting team, San Diego State, have struggled here early on, but escaped last night in a win that they absolutely had to have. I know why you're here. You want the picks. We have a ton of picks, so let's get into it. We're going to roll through the games here, folks. I will put these in the FTN Bet Tracker. You can follow me on Twitter at Randle Rant. I will have them there. Some of these are injury dependent, so you're going to have to pay attention to how the lines move, and we'll see how we do. So let's go through it here. Start with our first game. Right away, first game that jumped out to me, Toledo -3.5 against Richmond, and I like this with the over of 145. That's my first matchup. Richmond has been surprisingly good this year. They lost over 65% of their minutes. They had that Magic team last year that won the A10 tournament championship and made the NCAA tournament, won a game as well. The main issue here is going to be Tyler Burton for Richmond. He's developed into an incredible player. He's always had that potential. Chris Mooney has talked about that. He had 38 points against Charleston at OT and 13 and 15 double-double against Syracuse. But I still think the Spiders have issues on offense. I think they have issues with turnovers, and they don't shoot well from the free throw line. Toledo at home, road runners of college basketball. They hit their free throws. They bomb from deep. They're making 38% from beyond the arc. And at some point in this game, they will pull away. Richmond cannot get into a game that's back and forth. They have to control tempo. They have to keep it close. If they're down 10, they're down 12, it's going to become 20 because their main offensive weapon is Burton. Everything has to run through him. Richmond will lose control. Toledo is 5-1 against the spread. They're 6-0 to the over. The bets are about 50-50 on this game, but the overwhelming amount of money is on Toledo. I got this at 3.5. It's now 4.5. It's headed to 5. I'm fine with it. If this game was in Richmond, it's a different story, but the game is at Toledo. Toledo dropped 92 in Brooklyn against a good UAB team, so they're not going to be thrown off by a solid defensive team, which is what Richmond is. Richmond beat Temple, but that was without superb defender Jaleel White, who is out. We'll get to Temple in a minute. Close game in the first half, back and forth, but I think Toledo gets one of those runs maybe to start the second half, puts 8 points up there, and away they go. No one slows Toledo at John Savage Arena. First game, 2 picks, Toledo -4.5 now, and over 145. That's our first game. Next up, we're going to go to LaSalle and Temple in the Palestra. If Jaleel White and Jameel Reynolds play in this game, this is not a bet for me. But I'm starting to think that they're both going to be out because the line is creeping the other way at some books down to 5, even 4.5. White is a defensive difference maker. He changed the game. His absence allowed Tyler Burton to go off there when Richmond pulled away from Temple. And Jameel Reynolds had a knee injury in that win over Drexel for Temple. He's a big deal. This is the Philly Big Five showdown. It's at the Palestra, so no team has home court advantage here. White is 4 rebounds and 2 block steals. He's really a defensive guy that can disrupt offense. Reynolds is a huge absence. 12 rebounds, 12 points, 6.7 rebounds. I don't think either one of them plays. If they both play, it's off for me, but I bet that they're compromised. The line's starting to go down. It's a rivalry game. Temple does not have a huge bench, so they really get hurt by these injuries. They only play 8 players. Those players have double digits, only about 8. Owls could be without 2 of them, which is going to be a problem. Fran Dunphy is the head coach at LaSalle, legendary coach there down in Philadelphia. He knows Penn. He knows Temple. He's coached at both. Dunphy has his team playing very good defense and turning teams over. Temple doesn't create a lot of turnovers in the half court, but they give them away like candy. If Reynolds and White play, I am off this game, but assuming they are out, and I bet one of them is out for sure, maybe both, I am on LaSalle +5.5 in this game for game number 2. Game number 3, Butler, Kansas. We are going under 136. Butler 4-2 to the under this year. Great at the defensive board, which is not surprising under Thad Matta. He's come back, of course, now coaching Butler where he started. Both teams force turnovers here. Kansas State is 4-2 to the under as well. Simply put, it's hard to score at Hinkle Fieldhouse. This is not a place that's conducive to points. It's a tight spread. The line is trending down. How do you think it's going to go? Is it going to be a tight, high-scoring game or a tight, low-scoring game? I take the latter. Bets are about 2-1 to the under, but 90% of that money, so the majority of money is on the under as well, which you always like, which is nice supporting evidence. Close game. Second road game for Kansas State. Their first was at California. Does that even count, California? This is a much different atmosphere. Hinkle is a tough place to play. Kansas State has held 5 of their last 6 opponents under 60 points. Butler's held 3 of their 7 opponents under 53 points. I think it's close. I'm backing a low-scoring game here. Go with the under. When 2 solid teams play and it's a close spread, I think it tends to be low-scoring. Same is true in the NFL. It's been profitable for me, and it's going to be true tonight here. Give me Butler, Kansas State, under 136. Next game, Vandy and VCU. Jerry Stackhouse's Vanderbilt Commodores need payback tonight. Last year, VCU won at Vandy and held Vanderbilt to just 37 points. That was the lowest output of the season. Huge difference this year. VCU does not have Vince Williams, who's now with the Memphis Grizzlies in the NBA, and Ace Baldwin, the point guard, broke his wrist. He is out. VCU now is going to have to deal with Ezra Manjon, who is the lightning quick transfer for Vanderbilt, who came over from UC Davis. He's 4 rebounds, 4 assists, a steal, and only 1 turnover per game. You're not going to turn over Ezra Manjon. Huge advantage against VCU's pressure. No Baldwin, of course, to guard Ezra and to make him go up and down the court. They're going to try to pressure. I think it's a bad move. I don't think they have the personnel because they've lost some players to do that. Jordan Wright needs to get going for Vanderbilt. He did have 22 points against St. Mary's, a real solid defensive team. Randy Bennett's defense, that was something that's encouraging. VCU has struggled without Baldwin. They barely beat Pittsburgh. They got blown out by Memphis, and then they struggled at home to beat Kennesaw State in their last game. VCU's offense is very bad, and I think Manjon limits the turnovers, and if Vanderbilt gets it done here as an underdog, I think they're going to win outright. It's down to 2 in some places. It opened at 3.5. If it gets any lower, I'm just going to take the money line. VCU is tough at home, and that's why this line is where it is. But Vandy is motivated. Stackhouse is a really good X's and O's coach. They have the better personnel and no Ace Baldwin in this game. Vandy with a payback game here, plus 2.5 against VCU. Moving on to game number 5. Folks, Indiana State does not beat Drake. And if you look at history, it plays it out. Drake has almost every player back from the team that was 2 years ago, that was 18-0 to start the year, and they were 18-0 against the spread. Remember that team? Drake is now 6-0. They beat Louisiana, who was 5-0, and their offensive metrics are great. They're great from three-point range, 36%. They're great from inside the arc, 55%. They're great from the free throw line, 81%, and their defensive metrics are solid as well. Look at the history between these teams. Last year, Sycamores lost twice to Drake by an average of 17.5 points, and that entire team for Drake is back. Year prior, Indiana State lost both games at home, COVID scheduling, so they played both at Indiana State. They lost them both by an average of 9 points. Year before they split, and the year before that, they lost both. So the Indiana State is 1-7 in their last 8 games against Drake, and Drake is loaded and has all their players back. Indiana State covered their first 3 games this season, but they did not cover the last 3 games. Drake covered the last 2 games. Roman Penn was out for a game, the star point guard. He is now back. Drake is just better. They're a better team. First Missouri Valley Conference game for both teams. I get it. Indiana State's going to be fired up. You always like taking a home team in the first game in the conference. I'm not doing that. Drake pulls away unless there's an injury, unless there's major foul trouble. No problem here for the Bulldogs. Drake wants back to the NCAA tournament. They're a successful team. Coaching does a great job. Drake is solid. Drake minus 2.5, game 5. Indiana State just doesn't beat Drake. Next game here, we're going with an over. Eastern Michigan, FIU over 163.5. This is not a long discussion. It's very simple. 2 fast-paced teams love to run. FIU, 6th fastest in adjusted tempo per KenPom. 3 home games for FIU. 77 points, 95 points, and 83 points against Stony Brook, who loves to slow it down. FIU at home loves to run. Eastern Michigan, no problem running. 43rd in adjusted tempo. They allow their opponents to shoot 60% from 2-point range. 60% from inside the arc. Abysmal. Means FIU is not going to have trouble scoring. They had 90 against Oakland, 87 against Winthrop, and 83 against Michigan. So Eastern Michigan can match them and put these points up. You know the old adage in betting. Go over the highest total on the board, go under the lowest total. We are going over. This is an up-tempo game between 2 teams. We're riding it. These teams are 7-4 to the over combined this year. Eastern Michigan, FIU, game number 6, over 163.5. Next one of my favorite lines. We set these up last night, and now we're going back to them. And when we go back to them here, sometimes they go in our favor, and that's what we have right now. FAU minus 7.5. It's now down to minus 5.5 versus South Alabama. Dusty's May Florida Atlantic team, veteran club that returns 64% of their minutes, and they can shoot the lights out. They're shooting 36% from beyond the arc. They are fantastic interior defense as well. Florida Atlantic Owls, 4-1 against the spread, and they lock down the opposition, allowing only 40% from that 2-point range. Here comes South Alabama. they generate the overwhelming majority of their points from inside the arc, which is the strength of the Florida Atlantic defense. They can't make threes, shooting 27.5%. South Alabama can't rebound, and they don't force turnovers. I don't know why the line is dropping here. It's down to 5.5. It opened at 8.5. The majority of bets and money are actually on South Alabama. I'm going to be contrarian. Remember, trust your handicapping. I am taking Florida Atlantic minus 5.5. They bomb away. They battled at Ole Miss. They won at Florida. They beat Bryant. They don't defend the three well, but I'm going to take the Owls at home because I don't think South Alabama can take advantage of it. Laying 5.5. Florida Atlantic, one of these teams that people just don't realize how good they are. I am taking Florida Atlantic to score big here against South Alabama and cover that line. Few others here, and then we'll go back and do a review. Folks, this isn't my strongest play, but I'm going to keep doing it until it burns me. You know this show is a fade Mike White show. Georgia, 5-2 overall this year, but 2-5 against the spread. Hampton, 1-5 overall this year, but 3-2 against the spread. Hampton covered against East Carolina. Hampton covered against Cal Santa Barbara. Hampton covered against North Alabama. Ken Palm has this line at 18. It is going north. It's at 18.5, even 19 at some books. A little bit of value here. Hampton is pretty good at limiting offensive turnovers. They don't turn the ball over a lot, and Georgia is awful. Their offense is not efficient, and they turn the ball over a ton. They are 335th in offensive turnover percentage per KenPom, and they struggle to score from three. They're below 30% and only 47% from inside the arc. Georgia also plays slow. They don't run and gun, which always makes me want to take a big number. I just don't trust Georgia. Granted, this is not one of my strongest plays, but I'm going to continue fading Mike White, which has been 5 out of 7 so far this year. I don't trust their offense. I just have an uneasy feeling when I'm laying this amount of points in a slow-paced game. Hampton plus 18.5. If you wait on it, you may be able to get it close to 20 against Mike White. This is a fade Mike White show. Next up, Bonnie's versus Middle Tennessee State. I'm going with my law of efforts here. Shout out to my friend, podcast co-host, Screen the Screener, Gus Kearns. He says there is a limit to the amount of efforts a team can get, and I think Middle Tennessee State is due for a letdown. Big win on a neutral against Hofstra. Big win on a neutral against Stephen F. Austin. Big win against Montana State. Those were close games. They were tough battles. Middle Tennessee State, the Blue Raiders here under Nick McDevitt, they're going to run. They're going to press, they're going to get up, they're going to press, and they're going to turn the ball over. That's not what you want to do against St. Bonaventure. St. Bonaventure here, coming into the year with Mark Schmidt, had a great team last year. There was a lot of questions about St. Bonaventure. They don't have a lot of minutes coming back, but look what he's done. He ended up playing very tough against South Dakota State in the semi-away game, which is basically a road game there in the Sanford Pentagon. And I lost that game, and I said, St. Bonaventure, let me watch them a little bit. Bowling Green, they beat at home, blew them out. Southern Indiana at home, blew them out. Notre Dame, they played Notre Dame here on a neutral there, beat them handily as well. I think St. Bonaventure is one of the toughest places to play. I think you're getting Middle Tennessee State here with an inflated number because they have played well away from home, which, as I mentioned in the past, is not exactly the easiest thing for them to do. Bonnie showed me a lot on that virtual road game against South Dakota State. I think Middle's out of gas. I think they give way too many turnovers. You don't want to give turnovers to the Bonnies. That's what Notre Dame did, and they pulled away. And the Middle is going to give the Bonaventure disciplined offense chances to score, and you don't want to do that. You're going to beat the Bonnies. You're going to get up and make them make mistakes. I don't think it happens here. I think St. Bonaventure gets up quickly, and they go and move forward. Bonnies minus 2.5 at home. That is my next game. Continuing to move on here. Let's see what we have next. Now, big game tonight. Ohio State and Duke. That is one of the biggest matchups here. And I'm going with Ohio State against Duke in this matchup. Folks, death, taxes, and people love that Duke steam every darn day. This is not the same Duke team of the past. You saw it last year with Coach Krzyzewski. Even though this team made the Final Four, they struggled to cover. Duke is just 4-4 against the spread, and the Buckeyes are playing really well. They won and covered against Cincy in Maui. They won and covered against Texas Tech in Maui. This is not a matchup that Duke wants. Duke wants to pound the boards. Ohio State's going to match them on the boards as well. They're going to have a good defense with Ohio State that's going to limit you on the interior, limit you from three-point range, and they make their free throws. Duke's defense is solid as well, but they have struggled to shoot from beyond the arc. Ohio State coach Chris Holtmann, he's going to go to school in that Purdue game. Purdue destroyed Duke. Now, listen, they've played very well. They beat Gonzaga. I get that. But I like this Ohio State team. They are more talented on offense than Purdue is. I love Isaac Likely, who's a great two-way player. He's a veteran, played Oklahoma State for years. Sean McNeil, West Virginia. He's played in Cameron, has no trouble making threes there. Buckeyes can battle and limit Duke on the board. I think this is too many points, and I love that it's actually going in our direction. I think it opened at 4.5, and now it's going to 5.5, and I'm totally fine with it. Give me the Buckeyes plus 5.5 here against the Dukies. A couple other big games on the schedule, so let's go to the next one. Give me Indiana. This should be Indiana now. It should be minus 6.5. Give me Indiana minus 6.5 against North Carolina. People are going to jump all over this line because they're going to say, you're giving me a North Carolina team that almost won the national title and you're giving me 6 points. The problem is, folks, you have followed me. You know how well Indiana shoots at home. They can shoot the lights out. This offense centered around big man Trace Jackson Davis, who is going to be a handful for Armando Bacot inside. 63% from inside the arc, Indiana. That's 5th best in the country. 38% from three-point range. It's even better than that when they're home. Mike Woodson has his team playing great defense. I don't trust North Carolina right now. They can't make three-pointers. 30.8% this year. That's 262nd in the nation. They can score inside, but they don't force turnovers. Indiana does. North Carolina going the wrong way. They have played 7 games here. They are just 1-7 against the spread. They didn't cover against Alabama. That was a 4 overtime game on Sunday. Not a lot of people watched it because we had NFL, of course, but that was one of the best games there. And it went to 4 overtimes. They didn't cover the 1.5. Alabama did cover. They did not cover there, only getting 1.5 points. They lost to Iowa State, who D'd them up. Indiana's going to have a defense, not as good as Iowa State, but solid. They didn't cover against Portland. They did cover against James Madison, but they shot the lights out, and that was home. We are going here with Indiana laying 6.5. Can you believe this? I told you in that Final Four last year that we're going to lay 6.5 points at Indiana with North Carolina. You think I'm crazy, but I think that's exactly what the bookmakers want us to think. I'm going with the Hoosiers here at home. They always shoot well. Trace Jackson Davis, this is an NBA draft game for him. I think he does very, very well. A couple other games here. Folks, I can't back Georgetown. I just can't do it. Georgetown has been abysmal this year, and I know they're going on the road against a Texas Tech team that does not have Amok inside. But Texas Tech has shown that they can play defense, and Georgetown has not shown me anything. Texas Tech is top 15 in the country in adjusted defensive efficiency per KenPom. They force turnovers at a high rate. They are holding opponents to only 43% from inside the arc. That's where Georgetown has to go here to score. Georgetown is going the wrong way. They did not cover at home against Maryland, Baltimore County. They lost outright at home to American. They did not cover against LaSalle. They got blown out on a neutral by Loyola Marymount. Second half, they erupted. They lost to Northwestern at home. Why would you back Georgetown here? You want to be nervous about the line? That's fine. It's even trending down a little bit to 15. Texas Tech at home. I just don't think Georgetown can score. I think they hold Georgetown under 55 points, and I think they put up 75 against a pitiful Georgetown defense. Georgetown, even with those bigs inside, even with everything Patrick Ewing is about, they are 31st in the country in average height. They are 267th in defensive rebounding. Don't like it. Texas Tech laying the points. You probably even can get a little bit of value at this point because this line is going down. Last game we're going to here, late night. Hopefully we have a big night here with the games, and then we finish it off with one last one. I'm taking New Mexico getting 10 points at St. Mary's. I have been wrong about St. Mary's. St. Mary's has been very, very good, especially at home. But I like what I'm getting from this New Mexico team. St. Mary's is coming off a neutral court loss to Washington. That is a bad loss, 68-64, and they're playing a New Mexico team that is scalding hot. St. Mary's is at their best when they defend inside the arc. They're holding opponents to under 40% from inside the arc, but New Mexico is fine with that. They're going to force turnovers as well, and they have a fantastic pair of guards in the backcourt that don't turn the ball over. Jamal Mashburn Jr., Jalen House don't turn the ball over, and they're big-time scorers. House can hit it from 3. Morris Udeze is going to play very well. He's coming off a game. Morris Udeze, who came over from Wichita State against Northern Colorado, posted 33 points, 14 rebounds. He is a force inside, and that is not something that St. Mary's has seen so far this year. He is a force. St. Mary's has done fine against Oral Roberts and Vermont and North Texas and Southern and Hofstra and Vanderbilt. Now they're playing a team with a solid backcourt. Richard Pitino's done an outstanding job with New Mexico. They can score it. They can shoot it. They put it up. They get up and down the floor, and Udeze inside has just got to stay out of foul trouble. I think New Mexico is going to play very well. I think they're going to bring the defense. They force turnovers. They have to make their free throws, which is a key, and they can't turn the ball over against St. Mary's, and I don't think they're going to do that. So give me New Mexico, late night, hopefully getting some winnings and just trying to add the cherry on top here from a great day, +10 against St. Mary's. That's where I'm going. So let's recap here. Going back, folks, again, a tremendous slate of games. Follow me on Twitter at Randle Rant. Like, subscribe here. Join us at FTN. These games will be posted. The Discord is hopping. Frank Brank was up at 8 a.m. today, already putting plays, and we have you covered for college basketball. We're going to go with New Mexico +10 against St. Mary's. We're going with Indiana laying 6.5 points against North Carolina. We're going with Ohio State right now. It could be up to 6 against Duke. We have Texas Tech laying the big points there against Georgetown. We have St. Bonaventure laying a small number at home to a hot Middle Tennessee State that I think is going to have a law of efforts problem here. We have Hampton fading Mike White. That's what we do here on the podcast. That's what we do here on the video log. +18.5 against Georgia. FAU bombing away in a line that's going in our favor. Now it's only 5.5 against South Alabama at home, Dusty May's squad. Eastern Michigan, FIU track meet over 163.5. Drake, Indiana State, death taxes in Indiana State. The Sycamores do not beat Drake. We're going to lay that small number in the Missouri Valley Conference opener for both teams. Vanderbilt with the solid point guard in Mangin at VCU, who doesn't have Ace Baldwin. Butler, Kansas State, close game. Two well-coached, solid teams, under 136 at Hinkle. LaSalle, remember this play is dependent on Jameel Reynolds and Jaleel White. If they're back, then it's a no play. But if they're both out, I really like LaSalle. And the line is down to 5, even 4.5, which tells me people know that they're not playing. And we'll kick it off here with Toledo, -3.5 against Richmond, and the over 145. Folks, a tremendous amount of plays for you. Thank you so much for joining us. We went long today, but it's worth it. Let's get some money. Let's keep moving forward here. FTN College Basketball, only place for us to go, folks. Thanks so much for joining us. We will see you again on Saturday morning.